Right, so today I'm going to be talking about Marvel's Avengers. Yeah, this game is something else entirely. I really wanted to like this. I tried to like this, um, but it's flawed. That's the nicest way. The nicest way to review this game is to just say it's flawed, and end it there. But I'm going to talk about the stuff I liked first because there's less of it. But the stuff I did like is the story. It's a good story. It's telling us basically the origin of Kamala Khan. And I know you play an Avengers game to get an Avengers story, not an Inhuman story with just the Avengers in it. But the story is good, and the characters are well written, and I almost prefer the characterizations of the Avengers in this game as I do to like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know that's going to get me a lot of hate, but I think I prefer, especially Bruce Banner. The other characters, I don't know, but I do prefer Bruce Banner in this to the films. Everyone else, I don't think they get enough screen time. Bruce Banner is definitely the one who gets the most screen time. Him and Tony, and I think they're both well done, even though I couldn't stop hearing Deadpool whenever Tony was talking. But yeah, I liked the story aspect of the game. Unfortunately, that's not the focus of the game. It's a heavily multiplayer driven Destiny, but not done as well, a Warframe, but not done as well, repetitive, boring beat 'em up game. And the combat, although it feels fun, it gets repetitive very quickly. And you get to learn very early on just how samey every character is. The fact that they forced a projectile attack onto Hulk and onto Kamala Khan. I don't get that. I mean, it kind of makes sense because it is a thing that they would do, but the fact that they just forced it in to make all of the characters kind of the same and make the attack that's on those buttons kind of the same thing or do the same thing, just kind of, it's only as you get to like progress them through the trees, through their skill trees, that it starts to feel like each character is different. And there was a bit of there was actually something put into each of the characters to make them different, but it takes a while to get into those skill trees, and a lot of the characters you're not given until way later into the game. Like Thor and Cap, you're not going to progress them to a point where they feel like their own character until way later on until way past the story, because the story's only 10 hours, which isn't 10 hours at a push, which isn't enough time to fully sink into each and every character. But I did start to see later on how every character kind of is the same, and they kind of just use the same base model, and they kind of just crafted around that. and they tried to force characters to behave in a certain way whilst you're playing as them, so that they're just the same as that but beefier. They're the same as that, but they don't necessarily do as much damage, or they don't take as much damage, or what have you. And the fact that, like, whilst you're playing the story, when you're actually given a character, your character will be at level 1, but the enemies that you're fighting, they've scaled up. But like you'll be given like a level 1 Black Widow, whilst you have to fight like level 12 enemies, which isn't worthwhile at all, and isn't fun because you're just dying over and over again. The game isn't hard; it's just annoying, and the way that the enemies that it like makes you fight is just, oh, you need to do this really specific thing to beat this enemy, and then it makes you fight 5 of them at once, which is annoying because the combat isn't fun until you get like 15 hours into progressing a certain character to make it fun. But until that point, you're kind of just at the point of, hey, I'm playing as Captain America, but not really, because he only does one thing that, you know, Captain America is for, and the rest is just, you know, oh, he's basically the same as Hulk. He's essentially the same as Hulk. But yeah, the other things, there's a big pay to win aspect to this. Like the gear crunch, oh boy, they expect you to pay the big bucks, especially when you've already paid 60 quid, or 50 quid in my case, £50 for a game that should be finished. But there's so many graphical problems. I had the game seize up and just shut down. I've had it to the point where I just cannot move at certain points in combat. And the whole game just freezes. There's so much lag in later stages. Surprisingly, when I'm playing as Captain America, there's a lot of lag when I'm playing as Captain America. God knows why Captain America makes the game fart as shit itself, but that's what it does. But yeah, I didn't enjoy the latter half of this game. The first like half, like up until you get the helicarrier moving, and you can actually, up until the point where you choose what missions you go to, I had fun. I had fun pretty much up until the point where you fought Abomination, which is 4 hours into the game. And then after that, it's all pretty much the same thing over and over and over again. And that is the multiplayer aspect as well. The multiplayer aspect is the same as what you did in the story, just you have to do it 1,000 bloody times. And there's something called chain missions, which are exclusive to each character, and at the end of that you get a new cosmetic item, but the cosmetics don't do anything. Like, you have a cosmetic for World War Hulk, but he doesn't use the sword, he doesn't use the shield. His moveset in that uniform is the exact same as his base moveset that he has at the start of the game, or the skill trees that you've invested through the usual, through the regular thing. And gear doesn't change your cosmetics at all. It just gives you a stat boost. It doesn't change the way you look, which is lazy. There's so many things about this game that just scream laziness, and just scream, this shouldn't have come out yet. This really needed to be like put on the back burner and maybe saved for another few months, because like apparently they just came out with a patch that like fixed over 1,000 bugs that were in the game at launch. you shouldn't release a game with over 1,000 bugs. That's just not right. But yeah, on top of the repetitiveness, the short campaign, and really a campaign that doesn't allow you to progress the characters fully enough so that they feel like distinct characters, because there is a point where they feel like distinct characters, but that isn't during the campaign. So, and by the way, the final boss is just you stood shooting at MODOK. It's just you shooting at MODOK. And then the actual end set piece is just a quick time event. And it's not even like an intense quick time event. It's just square. Square. Square again. Square again. Triangle this time. Mash square until your thumb falls off. It's not fun. This will be an interesting game to come back to in like a year, because they've said that there's going to be like 4 years worth of content that they have, and if they can fix it, good on them for actually caring about this game. But it does feel very lazy, and it feels very tacked on. I don't think the game should have been what it was. I don't think the game was meant to be what it was, because you can see there's so much effort into the cutscenes and the graphics and everything else. And although I said graphical problems, there are graphical problems, like characters loading in with no hair, Captain America's eye glitch. But when the game is working and running smoothly, when that happens, it looks pretty. That is the best thing that I can say about this game. It looks pretty. It sounds good. The sound design is okay. The actual voice acting and the way the story goes is good. I like that. They made MODOK a threatening villain, which I've never seen before. He's always been a joke, but now he's a threatening villain, and I kind of like that. The story I was interested in, although I kind of knew exactly what was going on. The inclusion of a Kree sentry at the end was kind of interesting, and that kind of leads to Captain Marvel being in the game. And there is a name drop of Captain Marvel at the start of the game, so that leads to her being in the game, and I think she was leaked. But I'm interested to see where this goes, and I'm interested to see how they fix it. But in saying that, when the big question at the end of a game like this that you have is, how do you fix it? That's not the sign of a quality product, and it shouldn't have been released yet. It's really got too many problems. There should have been a longer campaign. The multiplayer needs something to do. You need something to do. If that's the big focus of the game is the multiplayer, make the multiplayer worth doing. If the big aspect of the game is leveling up your characters and making them fun to play, then make them fun from the beginning and make them different and make the combat something special. Don't make it just Batman Arkham and God of War, but not as good as either. But anyway, that's my review of Marvel's Avengers. If you want my recommendation of whether you should buy this or not, stay off it for now. Up until you hear that there's been a massive patch that's like completely changed the game, and there's a character in it that you really want to play as, and once they actually fix all of the problems, I'd say buy it, and I'd say buy it for cheap, because at the £50 price range that it is now, I I don't regret the choice because I played it on my Twitch. I did a charity stream. We raised a bit of money for Mind, which is awesome. But I was hyped for this game. I was bigging it up. I was one of the people that was behind it, and I didn't get what people were complaining about. And now I've played it and beaten it. I feel shortchanged. I feel like there should have been more. I feel like for my money's worth, there's not enough in the game at this point, and the game isn't a quality enough product at this point for me to recommend that you pay full price for it. Anyway, see ya. Go follow my Twitch, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, subscribe if you want to keep seeing my content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.